So we are halfway through spoiler season at the moment. Azalea is about 80 points away from LLing, and there is still 3 months till the calling. We're going to have to open some high seas, aren't we?
Hey ho ho, you'll cruise the foreign shores.
See you, lads! Show 'em you've been practicing!
Out of doors.
True friendship and adventure are what we can't live without.
And when you're a professional pirate,
That's what the job's about.
Upstage, lads! This is my...
So we've decided we want to go back into Everfest today. Basically, I think that the main thing that the Azalea deck is missing right now is just more non-attack actions. We could go back into History Pack if we wanted to look for Take Aim. That would be not bad, but I kind of like looking for Release the Tensions a bit more. It can help prevent them from playing defense reactions, and that's in Everfest. And while we're in Everfest, we can also look for Rain Razors. We've been playing around a bit with Razor Reflex lately, but the problem is that going for a blind Azalea and putting that in off top is going to just end a turn straight up, and we'd have to Azalea that away anyway. If we could replace that with Rain Razors, then we can play that out. It doesn't need a target, so it's going to be much better, as well as being really good for Bolton shots. So let's start opening. I'm gonna go through pretty quickly. Blue, oh, that's a foil Revel and Runeplug. That could be quite nice. Really not the Majestic that we want though. Blue, Read the Glide Path. We had some of them before and we decided to take them out, so I don't think that we're going to be playing that one. Foil, okay, we're just getting Majestics for classes that we aren't going to be playing. No, really not anything yet. I mean, that's only 3 packs, that's not terrible. I'm enjoying the feel of the paper anyway. Yellow Fatigue Shot. If it was red, that would be kind of handy, but I don't think we want to be playing yellows at this point. I think we want to have our deck do what it wants to do, just better. I wouldn't say no to that foil Slice and Dice for Kasai decks, my own Kasai, but not helpful here. Blue Fatigue. Okay, here's a Release the Tension, but it's in blue. I don't think that we want to be playing blue. We're looking for reds instead. It's a rare, so it's a bit harder to find. Blue Fatigue Shot. Yellow Release the Tension. Come on! This is the last pack. It's not been great. Red, we already have that. Oh, okay. Okay. I was thinking about like, oh god, this is probably one of the worst ones that we've had. Rain Razors actually kind of makes it worth it. Oh man, it's pretty good. Maybe we will play Release the Tension yellow. Not really fully sure on it. We'll definitely put in Rain Razors, but okay, actually that makes the whole thing not too bad. We'll just find somewhere to slot Rain Razors in, take the other one out. Otherwise, pretty alright. Okay, so here's the deck profile. Equipment has no changes. I definitely think Talismanic Lens was the right call. Having Target Totalizer to draw for games where they're not going to block, and Talismanic Lens to force dominates where they are going to block, is just really helpful. Once we can get an Skullbone Cross Wrap, it's going to be better than both of them, so we'll switch out them for that one piece. It's just going to fill everything that we needed to do. But yeah, having these two, definitely the right call. Yeah, no equipment change. For our attack actions, it's the same as last week. We're just moving Command and Conquer to the sideboard because we're trying to be a bit more consistent in what we're doing. Ravenous Rabble I really liked. It felt nice to be able to look at the top card of the deck without having to forsake any sort of damage. Usually it's coming in for a attack for 4 go again, which can be useful if they have perhaps like an angel or something that we need to hit, and use this to hit that and then move on to something else. Other cards sort of have felt like they've tempered our damage output, whereas Ravenous keeps on rate for that. So I'm pretty happy with Ravenous. I think it was a good call. For our non-attacks, the only change we have is adding this Rain Razors. This was actually a really good pull. It kind of makes the whole week worth it. We'll have to go back into Everfest a couple more times and hopefully we can get more of these, but it really helps bring the whole deck together in a whole cohesion sort of way. That with Snapdragons and Bolton shots, it's absolutely perfect there. It feels better knowing that the only real miss off a blind Azalea for the whole deck is going to be this point the tip. Still doesn't feel great, but it reduces the odds by so much. Spoiler, we have taken out the Rain Razors. It didn't feel good enough, even though I had a couple of fun times with them. And it is technically good, but this Rain Razor is going to do so much more for us. We're hoping to fill out these one-offs. They feel a bit weird just being here kind of randomly, but that's going to be something that comes along in the future. Our sideboard though is where it goes completely off the rails. The only thing I can say that I'm really happy about being here is probably this Barbed Undertow, and even that, maybe that gets changed later. We've added in this Release the Tension. I put in the sideboard. If it was red, it would go in the main board, but we're going to put it here and just test it for now. We haven't added any of the fatigue shots. If they were red, we would definitely be putting them in for Jarls, which we've had a hit and miss with. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but fatigue shot would definitely help with that. Give and Take is still a little bit weird, but you know, it can't hurt having it right now. Murkmire Grapples we will probably soon take out because Enigma has just LL'd, so we don't need to worry about her anymore. Prism's still going to be around in quite a capacity, so perhaps we need to keep them in for her, but in that case we might just go down to the reds instead. But we'll see how that match feels if we ever go into it. I did watch someone else a few days ago at a table next to me play Azalea into Prism, and it was not good for the Azalea, so we'll see how it feels. With that, Azalea is ready for another week of Armoury. Let's go. Probably just use that one.
If it's a stalagmite or Maya.
If it's a what? Maybe. What even is good in this?
Stalagmite.
Would you say the people that the UK citizens are happy? How does the UK say right now? So apparently it's
Yay! We start the night playing against Prism. Prism is going first and starts off by attacking us with a Herald, which we are okay to put some cards in front of just to block out, and they play a Pierce Reality. Because we have so few poppers and our cards don't block very well after the first turn, we're going to be forced to take most of the damage that is presented at us, so searching for strong combo turns and closing out the game quickly is the best thing that we can really be doing. We load Aspire Sniping, looking at the top two cards. We drew a Barbed Undertow and saw two non-attacks on top, which is so irritating every time this happens, because if those three cards were in any other order, we could fire this Undertow for 11 dominated, and if we stop them from pitching yellows, it also stops their turn in their tracks. Instead, we're forced to shoot for 9 undominated, with the only on hit being a Pox. Turns out Prism though will actually pitch 2 blues to play an Arclight Sentinel, so declaring a yellow wouldn't have actually made a difference, but that's only because of this one specific situation in time. Any other situation, I think it would have been right to hit and declare yellow. I do hate Arclight Sentinel though, because we have to take a turn off and waste an arrow just to shoot it and get it out of the way. We start taking some damage when Prism will attack us for 7, then 8 with Heralds. This will let them search for 2 Figments and have 4 Spectral Shields. Spectral Shields would normally be a real killer for us, but because we went into the Blitz Azalea deck, we have enough Murkmires to really get through them. We can shoot it for 13, which though it isn't dominated, a lot of Prism's defense comes from Ward, so they will take 10, destroying all their shields and creating an inertia token. We've got a pretty good lead here on live, but they are able to attack us with the Herald for 9, which we aren't able to prevent, then search for a Figment of Erudition, flipping over into Soraya. This is the angel that banishes a card from Soul to draw 2 cards, and is just miles away the most powerful angel. We're forced to block with 2 cards, going to 2 life, just so that we can have a turn. We'll start by breaking Talismanic Lens to opt 2. What we need is another Murkmire Grapple that we can dominate, but because we don't see it in the top 2 cards, we put them to the bottom to gamble on a Blind Azalea. In retrospect, we actually could have left the yellow Read the Glide Path on top to load draw, then opt and either leave it there or put it to the bottom to blind Azalea, but instead we load with our arms to put spy sniping in Arsenal and look at those top two. Spy sniping doesn't let us put them to the bottom, so what we see is what we get, and we leave a frailty shot on top. We shoot it for 5, which is easily blocked with a soul shield. Then we're just forced to start blocking until they force that last bit of damage. Prism is not a great matchup for us for a lot of reasons, but honestly this wasn't a bad game at all. It felt pretty close and the Murkmires are very, very important here, so perhaps if we can get a little bit more of those and find more consistent ways to dominate them, this actually could be a fairly winnable match as long as we close it out within the first few turns. We next go into Azalea. This is the same deck that we played against last week, but played by a different player. So we know roughly what we're going into, but we also know that the new player could pull some fast ones on us. Azalea will start and begins immediately with a channel Lightning Valley, firing a spell for 5 arcane. We only have 1 arcane barrier here, so we are forced to take this and allow them the draw, but we can filter out our hand a little bit. We can start our turn by loading and shooting into a buffed Bolton shot. Azalea is a very bad blocker, so even though it isn't a huge number, I'm not worried about this not hitting without them giving up their whole turn, which would also benefit us. We use Bolton Shot's reload to put an infecting shot into Arsenal and fire it, giving them 2 poxes and doing 12 damage, which is a real good start. Because we're both very aggressive heroes, neither of us is going to try and block each other, but where Azalea just has raw damage, we have on hits that we need to focus on. We load Bolton Shot, drawing a Stone Rain, and play a Ravenous to show a Red and Ledger on top of deck. We will Azalea into it, giving it Dominate, because forcing them to play only 1 action will possibly save us a ton of damage. We will also use the target Totalizer this turn to gain draws when a card with an aim counter hits. They will use their equipment to block the Red and Ledger, so it won't hit, but we can also Snapdragons, use Sharpshooters to load and fire a Stone Rain for 4 Dominators, banishing a card from their hand and drawing. I think this gives us a lot of control over the game, and we want to use it to focus on getting big turns and not letting Azalea come back in any way. We will use a knock to search for a Red and Ledger and attack with it for 11 Dominators. Lace with the Nourisher is especially powerful here, as we can force them to hold on to cards that they want to play, then chuck them to the bottom of the deck. This will connect and they're set up for a pretty bad time from here. Well, not that bad of a time, because they can play High Voltage, which is an instant, so it gets around red, activate Volzar, then attack for 7 Arcane. We do hold on to our whole hand and are in a good spot, but for going against a wizard, it's a little low, getting into that kind of dicey, scary range. We can, however, load an arrow and play our Read the Glide Path. Sending any arrow on top is good enough, and we do see a red Frailty shot. We Azalea and shoot it for 11 Dominators, and it is enough to win us this game, putting us at 1-1. Next up is New. We go first and we play our first knock of the game, searching for a red in the ledger. I think stopping them from throwing multiple attacks straight away is a pretty good start, and it also stops their damage. I tried borrowing someone's New recently, and they said sometimes you need to look at your hand and decide if it's better than just blocking with it, and usually it's not. And that's really changed how I've started looking at going into New. Like here we shoot for 10 non-dominated damage, and they choose to just block it with 4 cards. There's some powerful cards in here too, like Surgical Extraction, Bonds of Agony, and Persuasive Prognosis. But if they're happy to block and wait for the right time, we're going to need to find some dominated arrows to force through that damage. We break our Talismanic Lens on the next turn to opt 2 and find a Sedation shot on top of the deck, which we can fire for 14 Dominators, giving us a Ponder and them a Pox, Frailty, and a Nourisher. This is one of our best possible turns against a very spiky control deck. They will play a blue Annihilate the Armed with reduced damage from Frailty and give it go again with a Chi card, Transcending. New activates their Mask of Recurring Nightmares, which makes us banish a card from hand. The good news is that literally none of our cards are playable from Noo's ability because any blues we do have either search for arrows or are arrows, which require a bow to play. Bad news is that we want all of our cards. They will then play Codex of Frailty, putting a surgical extraction into their arsenal, then attacking with it. We will block with an arrow and our arms for 4, because if we only block 3, they'll be able to use their tunic and break their arms, creating Fang Strike and giving their attack +1. Unfortunately for them, they make a misplay here and activate the reaction anyway, not realizing that because Codex put Surgical into Arsenal first, the frailty we gave them reduced the damage by 1. So it's actually attacking for 4 when they thought it would be 5. This is a pretty easy mistake to make, but it also does mean that we don't need to worry about the arms for the whole rest of the game. We use our Hidden Agendas chess piece to flip a Barbed Undertow in Arsenal, gaining a pitch. We do it so we can play Point the Tip, which needs a face-up arrow in Arsenal to target, otherwise it's literally unplayable. Like, you cannot play this card. So we can give it an aim counter and shoot it for 8, -1 from the frailty. We want to name blues so they can't pitch them, but they do block it out. We'll use Snapdragon Scales here to give it go again and play our Codex of Frailty, searching for a free arrow and attacking with Drill Shot for 3. They only have a Chi in hand, so they will take this, and we put a -1 counter on their mask. I'm skipping over some mid-game here because this was quite a long match, but Noo did play their first Count Your Blessings kind of 2/3 into the game. I'm glad that we're only seeing these now because the sheer amount of life that they could gain means that we could run out of steam if they go through them all. This turn we can load and play 2 Read the Glide Paths, opting twice to find an arrow to dominate. We find Barbed Undertow again, and we can even play our Point the Tip to give it an aim counter, which will activate its on-hit effect. This is 12 dominated. We will name blue, preventing them from pitching blue cards until the end of their next turn, but they'll respond to the trigger by pitching a blue to play their second Count Your Blessings, getting it out of the way while they can. Instead of pitching, they'll play Leave No Witnesses, but we have no arsenal and we're not that attached to the top card of our deck if we don't know what it is, so we'll let that hit. Back to us, we will load a Sleep Dart and gamble on a blind Azalea. If this is a miss and hits a non-attack, we can play it out and load with our arms, but we hit a Bolton shot, and buffing it to 10 dominated is actually enough to win us the second game of the night, putting us at 2-1 for the first time ever. What a beautiful looking 2-1 that is. 4 rounds tonight, so we will go against Florian, who is actually top seed tonight. This is the same Florian we've played against a couple of times before, so we are ready for a slow, grindy game on their end. Because we're looking for powerful dominate turns, we load an arrow and blind Azalea it away, revealing a Lace with Frailty, and we actually just decide to pass. This isn't actually as bad as it might look, because it means that we can hold on to a buff for our next turn. Florian will just use their turn to create a rune chant, and we can break our talismanic lens to opt 2, seeing a buff and a frailty on top. We can shoot for 14 dominated, giving inertia, pox, and 2 frailties. The frailties don't matter that much since they will probably be arsenaling their defense reactions, and their weapon doesn't actually attack. But inertia is actually really good for when a deck just wants to keep defense reactions in arsenal to block with. Following this turn, we play a Ravenous Rabble, revealing a Lace with Frailty on top of deck and shoot a Barbed Undertow from our arsenal. It doesn't have any buffs, so this is just 1 for 5, but because they 2-card block, we decide we can actually break our legs to give this go again, and load a Drill Shot in our hand and fire it for 7. Because they only have 1 card in hand, they're forced to take it, and we can put a -1 counter on their Barkskin of the Millennium Tree chess piece. Barkskin creates an embodiment of Earth when it blocks, or 2 if Florian is online, so by putting a -1 counter on it, we only actually have to worry about that happening once in the whole game, which I think is worth giving up our legs for. Every time we've played against a Florian, they've really waited until the very end of the game to start attacking, but they'll start attacking with a Blood Oath with 11 rune chants, more around the 30 life range. This is just damage, so we're okay to take it, but it means that we might have less time this game to close it out if they want to play a little bit more aggressively. This is more aggressively for an OTK strategy, that is. We'll use our Knock the Death Whistle to search for an infecting shot and fire at Dominated. We didn't have any buffs this turn, so a Dominated infecting shot will either take equipment or do some above rate damage, but I really would have preferred it if we had some non-attacks here. Going into the end of the game, we're down on life, but we can use our arms to load a Stone Rain and shoot for 12 Dominators. This is where they'll use their Bark Skin, which only creates 1 embodiment because Florian's not online yet, and they're forced to go to 5 and only have 2 cards. It doesn't actually look bad for us here, but we draw 4 non-attacks, meaning we just need to block out a Plow Under that we didn't even have an arsenal to sink. With an arrow, we could have just taken it and tried to end the game, but Azalea sometimes decides she doesn't want to work like that. We play our Rain Razors for the first time and load an arrow. If they don't have a defense reaction in Arsenal, they can block out a maximum of 7 damage, so a Dominated 12 will possibly win us this whole game. We load then Blind Azalea, which shows a Knock the Death Whistle. We can still play it and reload, choosing what we want to draw next turn and shooting a Bolton Shot for 6, but it's really just not the turn that we needed. I know it's easy to say if thing was other thing, but if we had swapped the Stone Rain in our hand now for any non-attack last turn, we would have done 13 Dominated damage, which if their last card in hand wasn't a Sink Below, we'd have just killed them, like just gotten over. Florian though will play a Runeblood Barrier, which I didn't know that Florians were playing now, otherwise I would have brought in some Murkmires. It would have been so satisfying to break through all of those in one arrow, but in the next turn they'll play their next Oath of the Arknight and we lose the last game of the night going 2-2. Surprise packs for the first time. It's like 10 PM right now. I'm so tired.
Okay, then theoretically.
I think shot's not terrible. Yes, a red one. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're good. This is like probably actually the thing I want the most.
That's what we were talking about.
I got a red Release the Tension. Oh, and a red Fatigue Shot. Dissolving Sphere is not good. Okay, that's actually really quite good. Overall, that's a result that I'm just really happy with. We've gone 2-2 for the first time. We actually placed 3rd overall in the whole standings, and we got our first prize packs of the whole series. So I think it's just clear progression moving upwards. That we started on 0 wins, we moved to 1 win for like 3-4 weeks or so, and now we've moved up to 2 wins. I'm not saying that we're going to consistently be staying at 2 wins. I think it's very possible that we drop down a little bit and, you know, shuffle around and sine wave a little. But yeah, it's generally just like a very good result. Shows that the deck is getting better, shows that we're getting what we needed, and even our prize packs had something that was really useful. So, good episode today. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. Zero legendaries, 0 tops, 1 pot of soup on the stove.